well, you can buy it at, market value. Well, that's not, what was intended. So, there's a whole bunch of different, sort of, what do you call that, a team sort of attack and approach. And some folks, and no disrespect, IT folks are not always the best policy folks. And politicians know little or nothing about the technical stuff. So, but nonetheless, somehow, we kind of build this network that kind of, takes it on. I think we can make, the changes incremental, but the changes have to be made.
I'm sure it's the same for Detroit as it was in the north. The big decision makers, policy makers can come to the community, but are they actually in the community? Do they get the community experience? Every year at ISOC, we hold the Indigenous Connectivity Summit 2 weeks from now in Hawaii, this one. But the last one was in Inuvik in the Northwest Territories. One of the panelists that Madeline talked about, we brought her up, and she was in the community because she wanted to facilitate a session to find out what's on Northerners' minds. She got told what was on Northerners' minds and went back to Ottawa and said, okay, we need to rethink what we're doing.
Right. And it's a session like this, but as the clock is, we could be sitting here talking for a long time, but I wanted to really, in the 6 minutes we have left, get some questions from the audience. We'll take a collection of questions and then the panelists will answer them. So, do we have any burning questions out there? Yeah, it's Benjamin, and then Pablo, and then Dad. Okay, and then Greg. So Benjamin.
Okay, thank you very much. The lady from Detroit. I'm sorry, I missed her name.
Monique.
Monique. Okay. My question would be: did you ever run into licensing issues, and how did you overcome it? Because that has been one of the bane of contention around communities that are not rich, getting them access. And then, was there any intervention of universal access fund or anything like that in your case?
We'll just take a couple of questions first because we're running short.
Okay.
Pablo?
Hi. I want to commend all of you for your efforts, and they're quite inspiring. I would like to know, as someone who lives in Puerto Rico and who is a TLD operator, how can I help to set up networks such as the ones in Detroit or what you're trying to do in northern Canada to help out regions within Puerto Rico, especially in the mountainside, where they don't have internet access or it's quite expensive. So how can I do that? How can I help them out?
And then Dev?
All right, so great session there. I guess my question comes to like, okay, you focused a lot on how you overcome the challenges, political and policy-wise and getting the internet access. But the other, to my mind, what brings to mind is the flip side is the devices that is used to access it. How do you overcome those challenges in terms of finding the devices to enable the internet access and ensuring that that's up to date and not obsoleted and that type of stuff?
That's a good question.
Yeah, that's a good question. And Greg, last question, and then we'll have to.
This is also for Monique. I'm Greg Shatton. I'm the president of ISOC New York, and we are a sponsor for NYC Mesh. We also worked with Digital Divide Partners, which is working on putting internet access into public housing in New York. So I'm very.
Red Hook.
This is Grant Houses in Harlem. That was the latest one. So I'm wondering if how can we help? How can there be more of a national network of urban connectivity challenges? Because it's great you're getting a lot of contact and you're coming on board as a structure into the internet society. But how can we all get together? We're facing this challenge of being hidden among. New York is not on that list because we've got enough rich people to get us off that list. But where my wife works is 38% poverty level. So the same challenges, and I feel like I should have known about you a long time ago. It's my bad, but still, how do we get from here?
Absolutely.
Okay, great. Okay, so, so Mark, do you want to talk about the licensing and, or who wants to address licensing?
I will on
that's correct.
on that, because it was, well, just to talk about that real quick, as far as licensing goes, we're not operating under a particular license because we're not calling ourselves an internet service provider. We tried to stay away from that terminology. We are a community wireless network provider. So we just go with that. And kind of relevant to your point, we use Ubiquity equipment. Ubiquity is well known worldwide. Their equipment meshes as well as their equipment provides direct wireless access. We do run into spectrum issues though on that, but it provides that. As far as it remaining up to date, it's constantly receiving updates, and we are deploying those on a routine basis. So that covers that. And then for the other gentleman that talked about coming together, I mentioned earlier that our program is rooted in education, so we actually have some books that are online on our website, and which another shout out, hashtag Gigabit Detroit, GIGABIT Detroit. Do that if you're putting some things out there, that we'll see those tweets or whatever you put, or IG messages or Facebook that you put out there. But we're happy to provide how to create community wireless networks. We have a lot of what we refer to as zines and things like that on our website. We also host a conference in Detroit every year called the Allied Media Conference, and producers of all aspects, artists, technologists, come from all over the world to attend the conference, and it's scale-based in pricing, so it's easy to attend, and we're always looking to share information online. So the Internet Society will be a link as well as the website.
And then
So
Mark's going to
just
add something.
on the spectrum question, we're working in one community in Canada, one community in the US right now. In the US, we're using unlicensed spectrum, LTE. In Canada, we actually managed to convince one of the big three telcos that they weren't ever going to use the spectrum in that neighborhood, so they donated it.
Yeah, and there's always
Great.
tons of issues on cognitive radio. We use the spectrum. We can be continuing a long time on this,
Yeah.
but we're right up against the lunch break, so.
We do
Great.
unlicensed spectrum too. I didn't realize that's also what you were referring to.
To Greg's question, there is talk about having an urban mesh network conference next year, and possibly along with the Indigenous Connectivity Summit next year, where we're going to be looking at urban Indigenous issues and access.
Right, and then we also, like you were saying, changing the rules, like a lot of the larger companies that give access grants only give them to rural network, only give them to large networks that have been in existence for a long time, and that's not community, those need to be community networks as well, and I know there's a lot of work that has been done convincing those companies that rural networks are small, urban networks or mesh networks should all be included within those, so that they can also get these grants by large Microsofts and IBMs and others who didn't look at them. And I think, did we not answer any questions?
Just one quick point on the providers. I agree 100% about going to them. We initially worked out a deal with Rocket Fiber. When I say we only have 3 providers, I shouldn't even have mentioned their name, but I should have said a fiber provider, because they were formerly giving us our internet, but then they were going to donate it. Ended up we had to pay for it wholesale though. But 123net, I proudly say their name. They are in the suburbs, but they stepped in and they are giving us 2 gigabits. They donate that to us completely, and that's what we use and what we share. And if we need more, they said, okay, fine, we'll give it to you. Because the telecoms have big money, lots of time. We just have to continue to go to them and plead our cases.
Okay, thanks so much. I know we could be discussing this for a long time, but